everybody. We are back. Welcome to another episode of More Than a Title. I'm your host, as usual, Jared Thomas. Before we begin with this special episode, because you guys can probably hear it in my voice, I'm excited. I can't wait to get going. But, I want to thank everybody for, all the support. We're growing every week. Today, the Spotify wrap-up came out, and our statistics on Spotify was amazing. So I just want to thank everybody for that. We love you guys, and let's get to it. So let's get into the introduction. So our first guest today, we have two special guests, but our first guest today has over 20 years of experience under a belt, has worked at companies such as Arnold Worldwide and Harvest Edge as a creative director, executive creative director, and is also known for being the creator of Flow from Progressive. And today she's the chief brand officer at the Grist, partnering with our second guest, who also has 20 years of experience in the marketing industry and has had several roles over various brands, been director, president, CBO, CMO, and is currently the CEO of the Grist, which is a Boston ad agency where Mary and Ted work together. So let's introduce Mary Webb and Ted Schlueter. I hope I said it right, Ted. I think I messed up.
Schlueter, all good. Love the energy.
But how are you both? Thank you both. I'm so excited to have you both here. I've been a fan of yours, Mary, for so long. I will set the story offline, but I first met Mary when I was working at Cannes Lions. And for those who aren't familiar with it, it is the festival of creativity. It's all about branding. How do you use your creative inspiration or your works in order to increase the brand, increase revenue, and things like that? And I remember connecting with Mary on LinkedIn, and I saw creator of Flow from Progressive. I'm like, how do you do that? What goes through your mind? Like, how does that feel? And so I'm excited to hear both your stories. And if you want, let's just start at the top, like how you both met and how we got to the partnership we see today.
Yeah, well, we both, have started out at probably different places, but we both ended up at some point at Arnold. It wasn't my first gig. It might have been yours, Ted, was it?
Second, yep. Arnold Worldwide in Boston. Yep.
There you go, yep.
That's right. Arnold Worldwide in Boston. And, I was actually, I don't think I hired Ted, but I was his boss. And
it was very brutal, very cruel.
It was tough. And we just had a blast working together. And, and so when Ted decided to go pursue his dreams and leave the agency, I was sort of sad, and he was too. And we said to each other, someday we're going to work together again. And I've got to hand it to Ted that he made sure that happened. He really did. You know how you have people in your life who just always stay connected?
Absolutely.
And Ted's one of those guys. I mean, he gets all the credit. He would just call me. Every couple of months, all throughout the year.
Like a stalker, I guess.
Yeah, he was a little bit of a stalker. Yeah. But it was all friendly, all nice. We were always best buddies. And we would just shoot the shit and say, what's going on in your life? What's going on in mine? And for me, it was always, I'm still at Arnold. I was in the Havas network for over 20 years, half the time at Arnold and half the time at Havas Edge.
Yeah.
Ted kept in touch, and he kept harassing and beating me. No. And actually, when I reached the point last summer, really, where I had put in, I had put 10 years at Arnold, 10 years at Havas Edge, and I was like, okay, it's time to move on. And Ted really has, which, of course, I'd love to spend the bulk of the time talking about. He's written a book called Branding for Buyout. And, he'll tell the story, but it's really a genius idea that, and he can tell you how he came to it. But the idea is really marketing, helping people who have grown businesses their entire careers, and they're ready to sell, or they're planning on selling in the next 3 years or so. And who isn't? Who doesn't form a business and hope someday they'll sell it? But no one really has ever marketed to the buyer and help the seller really build their brand and increase the value of their business exponentially. Absolutely. Before they go to sell it. and no one really markets to the person who could potentially buy it. So Ted saw that space, that white space in the marketing area, and he has totally exploited it in such a way that he certainly convinced me that this is the future. I think it's a brilliant idea. No one is doing it. And the Grist is doing it in a way that is turning what would be people's fortunes by selling their business at the end of their career to mega fortunes. We really do. We have, proof that we can increase the value of your business in an amazing way. We're not going to give away all our secrets, but there is a methodology to it. We've partnered with an investment banker. I'm really psyched at the opportunity to work with Ted again, number one, but to be sort of on the cutting edge of an area of business that is brand new.
Yeah, it's so many interesting things you said about that, Mary. Because one, Ted, so you're early on the personal branding, so that is brilliant. So off camera, we were saying, Mary, I was telling Ted, similar story, right? Like I was a sales guy, up and down, good quarters, bad quarters, sending 1,000 emails out. I might get one email response from you, Mary, and you just took it as you're like, I got 12 o'clock free on Friday. Let me see what Jared's talking about. It's kind of a pity conversation. You're not ready to buy. And I'm like, how can I scale what I'm doing? So let me just be myself. Let me tell my story. I was 20 years old, working at Dallas BBQ, smelling like ribs, and I had my first kid on the way. And what the hell?
That's not bad, smelling like ribs.
No, I was tasty. It smelled yummy, but it was. But that's another story. But and then that's what took off online. So I love the fact that you thought that. And what's really interesting about what you said too, because you guys being branding experts, how difficult is it to apply what you use for your brand? Because it's one thing to market someone else's brand, but it's very difficult to market your baby. So I would love if you guys could talk about that.
Sure, I'll take a crack at that one. Because I can tell you I had mortal fear of marketing myself and an idea that I was a little bit paranoid about. But before I do, I'll just say that with one single interesting move by Mary, by saying creator of flow on her LinkedIn profile, I feel like that singular maneuver, that basic tactic is pretty powerful because what do you have in most LinkedIn profiles? Ted Schlueter, Jared, someone's name, their title, what they've done. Mary decided to do something a little bit different. It's the first thing that you see and it sticks with you like glue. So I'll just acknowledge, because I could talk.
Hey, if you can't market yourself, then you're in trouble.
So they're the personal branding. If I'm picking up the question correct, it's critical. Yeah, you do have to apply attention to it and mature it, and you have to put some work behind it. So, and just one other thing is like, I do think as you said, you're a solo entrepreneur, and to all the other entrepreneurs out there, it is a family. Like we all have to take care of each other. And there's people who do what they say and there are people who don't. And, that's another just, I think, serious commitment that you have to live up to is doing what you say. So true. So the quick riff with me is I did, find some white space and build around it for more than a decade now with this methodology called branding for buyout. And I was afraid to market it because I was afraid for a few reasons. One, there's sensitivity around companies that might be looking to sell, where they don't want to acknowledge internally, let alone externally, they're getting ready to sell. So there's some confidentiality and discretion. But at the end of the day, most people want to prepare for an exit at some point in their future. So there's ways to get around that. And the other, I was worried about competition and poaching. And what I realized was I am the smallest, tiniest company on earth. No one really cares at some level in terms of like, hey, you want to go try to take this, go for it. I've got a decade of IP behind it and maturity behind it. And the other thing was just fear of putting myself out there. because I had never self-promoted anything. I had never put myself on camera. I had never really tried to be the champion of an idea and put myself out there. And we launched the book. Oh my God, Mary, I'm losing track of time. Was it in 2021?
Probably about 18 months ago. Is that right?
It was in calendar year 2021.
Okay. Right.
And all I've since then, and of course, since Mary came on board about the same time, it's been exponential growth. But since then, every day I tell myself, I wish I had done this 10 years ago. Because one, competition is healthy. Two, the amount of value that we're unlocking is in the trillions of dollars. There's more than enough for the world. And three, if you don't apply some level of attention to your own brand and putting yourself out there, it's just that much harder to acquire new business. And we know for any business, the lifeblood of your company is new business. 24/7, never take your foot off the gas, never stop hustling. Because, I've been through 4 recessions as a business owner, including the Great Recession, the dot bomb, you name it, like bad times. And sometimes you have to get really lean and really aggressive, and you can never, ever, ever stop. So I'll pause there, and that's my riff.
No, I love it. I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that. So that got me. I'm like, damn, yeah. I gotta get on the call right after this, guys. No, but what you said is so powerful, right? Like the power of branding yourself. And I say that to myself every single day. If I was on LinkedIn, like really taking it serious the way I have now. Because I thought of LinkedIn and really just social media. Remember back in the day, it was just like something you connect with somebody just to really verify if I'm selling to a human or if I can or anything like that. And now today is like when I started the branding, the community, I've told stories that have hit Germany, France, and all over the States. And just even think about yourself, Mary, like how I am with you. I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to Mary. She created Flow. And I'm like, whatever you ask me, I got whatever you need, I'm here for you. And then, but that's how powerful branding is, right? And that creates that relationship. And imagine if you do it in sales, guys. So that's why I'm always telling my sales counterparts, it's going to get tough, especially with this recession. You need to be lean. You need to figure out where your customers are and have them come to you. When they come to you, you have the leverage as a salesperson and as a, and it creates just you don't have to convince somebody. You're just helping at that point. And that's why
I also say this, Jared, if I can pile on.
Yeah.
I think there's an associative nature. It's almost like a magnet. Well, from my selfish point of view, I not only knew that I wanted to work with Mary, I knew Mary could bring tremendous value, and her reputation entering our brand enhances our enterprise value. Then subsequently, you reached out to Mary, connected Mary. Now we're on your podcast. Now all 3 of us are connected. And guess what? Now we're getting triple down exponential value on having a conversation to all of our constituencies. But we just went to, 1 plus, 2 equals N or whatever the formula is. Not the math guy. But we got an exponential return based on reaching out and networking.
That's it. And this is why it's powerful, everybody. That's gold right there. And I would love to bring it back to you too, Mary. Like, so in your early days, or you could just take us through early parts of your journey, because I think it's so iconic. I would love to know how you feel of creating something like Flow, because there's only 5 good, like really good brands that do it really well. There's like the Jared from Subway, there's Jake from State Farm. You might throw in the Budweiser frog in there or something like that. Yeah. And then there's Flow from Progressive. So I would love to know, like, how you got into the creative space, what's your process, and just what is, to now. I would love to hear it.
Yeah, well, I won't start at the very beginning. I actually worked at another Boston agency called Hill Holiday before I came to Arnold, and I was actually an internship in PR. I was in college at Arnold. That's how I got that gig. Wow. And I just begged my way into a job as an assistant into the creative department. In fact, I actually told them that I'd work for free for 3 months if they'd hire me, and they did. Then I got my portfolio together. I was trying to, I was working as an assistant to all the creative directors, and people would be coming in to interview for jobs. And I tell you, that was the most motivating thing in the world, because I was so pissed off. Every time someone would come in and interview for a job, I'm like, that's my job. So I finally got promoted. And then when I moved over to Arnold and met Ted, and then Ted moved on, I was on the team that actually pitched Progressive. That's how I got on that account. And actually insurance companies, they just they count on the fact that they need to be in the top three. When you go to buy car insurance, you're only going to look at three different, typically you're only going to look at three different companies and get three different bids. So if you're not in those top three, then you're screwed. And that was the case with Progressive when we went in there. And now, of course, they often are in the top three, and that's how their business grew so quickly with that campaign. But the idea was really the whole idea about the Flow campaign, which was really called the Superstore in its original formation. And, what it was really about buying insurance online. Remember, this is, 12, 13 years ago. So the online buying was still really a novelty. So we brought the idea of online buying to life. It was almost like you could walk into an internet store and buy your insurance. And of course, you could have a shopping cart, walk around, and it also took the intangible and made it into something tangible. There were boxes on the shelf, and you walked in, you picked up your insurance. We showed people shopping, and then they needed to walk up to a register and pay. We needed to cast someone for that role of who's going to run the register at Progressive Insurance. The online insurance company is what they were known as at that point. And we cast Stephanie Courtney. And we did what many agencies do when we do casting, especially when we're looking for someone with a sense of humor. We sort of call up people who are part of the Groundlings, which is an improvisation and sketch comedy theater in LA. So that's where Flo or Stephanie Courtney was hanging out at that time. And we loved her. The client loved her, and she got the part, obviously. But she was super hesitant because she had just started a gig on Mad Men as the switchboard operator. And she said, oh, I don't know if I should take this role. And I said, don't, my career is finally taking off. And I reassured her that she could still have her acting career because people wouldn't recognize her, and we just stayed there that night and with hair and makeup and just made her look totally wacky. Her look has, more modified since then. She had a huge bouffant and really ruby red lips. And, she looked a little crazier than she does now. But that was really it. I have to say that, I had this genius director, Jeffrey Fleissig. He was the one who really brought the idea to life. And I also, I created Flow, but then I hired this guy, Sean McBride, who's now actually the chief creative officer at Arnold. And he's really, has evolved the campaign and made it fantastic. So I got to give him tons of credit. He was pretty amazing. And so that's really where that was the origin of the campaign.
I'm giddy. I have so many questions off of that, Mary. That's an amazing story. First of all, shout out to Stephanie. I know she's like, thank God I took that call, right?
I know.
Thank God. Like, it's just so crazy to me because I love hearing stories like that because how one decision can change so many people's lives and change an entire brand. So like, I'm curious too, because I'm used to that from the agency space. So when you win the contract and things like that happen, but what happens when the brand takes off? Is there any additional revenue? Like, or how do you feel when you see it today? Like, is there any additional revenue play there? Because me as somebody who's created this, right? They thought it was going to be a small shop. It actually changed the face of the brand. So how does you as a creator, is there a way to monetize that additionally?
No, Ted will tell sort of a similar story. You really, as an ad agency, and you're really not getting credit for financial credit, I would say, for the work that you do. They pay you. Every brand pays you, whether you're on a retainer or you're on a project basis. You're getting paid for your ideas. And once you give that idea up to them, they own it. You don't get anything out of it. And that's, that is, as Ted referenced, that's why I can put, creator of flow. I want to get get something out of it.
Absolutely.
But it's still with Arnold, it has created employment for probably hundreds, if not thousands of people. And so, there's that part of it. It has really grown the business, Progressive's business, in such a way that it's made them a huge success. So all the people who get employed at Progressive, and I am a person, sort of, I shouldn't say this is unusual for a creative person, but I am very focused on growing my clients' businesses and not as much on awards and that kind of thing.
Impact.
And that's why Progressive for me was a real career changer for many reasons. I mean, I was working on a bunch of different accounts at the same time that I was working on Progressive. But I really liked the idea that I could wake up every morning and I'd have an email from Progressive that told me how the sales are doing based on each spot that was running. And every day I could say, okay, that one's doing well, that one's not. Let's change this. Let's do that. So and cool. You sort of get addicted to that. Kind of, so I really believe in, you can build a business and a brand at the same time. And that's certainly what happened with Progressive. And why I, sort of made the move really after leaving Arnold to go to an agency that was really all D2C work, which is an area where there's lots of bad work being done. And I don't think it has to be ugly, awful work. It can be great work that really gets the results you need, but can still be great creative too. And that's sort of been my passion for the last 10 years.
Yeah, I feel the same way about the B2B space. I feel like there's so much creativity in that space. It's like we all do this. Somebody hits a home run. Let's rinse, repeat it. Let's replicate it. There's no authenticity, and then we're all doing the same thing. And there's no voice. But one last question about the flow, though, Mary. As a creative myself, right? When you hit that out the park, do you ever feel a sense when you work on brands and case or clients now? Do you try to replicate that? Do you ever have that in the back of your mind? Kind of like a musician trying to get a hit again. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
when I was, a big chunk of my career, every time you go into a meeting, you'd have someone asking you, hey, can you do that Geico campaign? Can you do something like that Geico campaign? And I get a lot
like Apple.
Or we want to be like Apple. That was another one.
10,000 of those.
Oh my God. And you get asked that all the time. And I think it has become sort of a, can you give us a flow? And, we want a flow kind of campaign. And so I think it's, basically, I think spokespeople kinds of campaigns, if they're done right, can be very sticky and very successful. And do I get asked to do that over and over again? Yeah. I am no longer, by the way, a creative. I think, Ted and I will always be creatives. We both started out as creatives. Right now, I'm the chief brand officer. I am the one knocking on doors and making phone calls and sending emails and, and trying to bring in more business. But we have this great, Dan Madsen is our chief creative officer at the Grist, and he's done this amazing campaign for Stanton Optical that is a character, and it's a penguin, and it's the funniest. He has this great campaign going. So we were asked to do a flow-like campaign. You can imagine that I get asked that question a lot.
I love it. And Ted, for you too, man, well, what are some creative works to you that what are some of your favorite ones, creative works that you've worked on? And what is one that was the most challenging that maybe was like the last minute, went over budget, you had to hit the deadline? What's one of those?
There's a lot there, so I'll gladly unpack it. But
yes,
before I do, I just want to go back to one point that Mary Ann you made was about value creation, and not just doing work for the sake of doing work. And I don't know if this is a true story or not, but I read it or heard it, and I believe it to be true. So if George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, is listening, give me a call. And
you know he is.
Please, man, please listen.
Yeah. But here's a guy who I think started by writing a comic book series of Star Wars and created this idea in this world, multi-world universe, and then creates Star Wars, a movie like no one had ever created. And whenever it came out is in the early 70s, because I remember I was like 4 years old and we went as a family to see it at like midnight, and I barely remember it, but I had my, Jawa t-shirt on the next day. But this guy has created something so powerful it circled the earth. But if the story's true, he wasn't standing to monetize on his idea because he had leveraged every resource, production company, director, movie, everything he had went into the movie. And what he was going to get out of it was not a huge financial return. But he, for the first time ever, demanded or negotiated exclusive rights to merchandise, which no one had ever done for a movie before. And the amount of money he made from merchandising, figurines and characters and whatnot from Star Wars. And don't get me wrong, I think George Lucas has done pretty well financially. But my point being is not everyone monetizes on the brilliance of their idea personally. Mary mentioned that she created Flow. Arnold's made lots of money and has a long-standing relationship with Progressive, and I'm sure it's mutually beneficial. But the outsized value created is in the billions of dollars for Progressive. Progressive, if you are, I'm arguing objectively because I don't work for either business, but I would argue that Progressive got a really good deal.
Oh, absolutely.
The work that Mary did and the team that did in terms of billions of dollars of value creation.
Oh, absolutely.
And the reason why I'm getting all fired up about this is in a lot of our industries, that gap exists. But with this branding for buyout, what we're doing for entrepreneurs who are selling their businesses, we are helping monetize their business, and we are basing our financial comp, a part of it, on the outcome of the exit. And that's where you're really in it, skin in the game, to try to get to an end point. All right, so now I'm going to go back to your original question, Jared.
I like that. That's a really smart
I don't know if when I was talking about monetizing and the frustration of being in an advertising agency and really, not getting the payoff, so to speak. I wish Ted would tell his story of, how he came to branding for buyout.
I will, I promise.
Okay.
Well, let me put on pause just so I can answer Jared's question. It was a couple big challenges and some of the greatest creative work that you've been around or seen or what have you. So I will use a personal example, and it goes way back to 2013. When I had my first business. It's called Crunch Brands. And we got this opportunity to work on a company called Unreal Candy.
Oh, yeah.
Unreal Candy was a better for you knockoff of Snickers, Milky Way, Three Musketeers, and M&Ms, but made with no chemicals. And the first thing most people are going to say, oh my God, it's going to taste like butt. It tastes awful. But I can attest, it really did. It didn't taste as good as those big ones that I mentioned, but it tasted pretty close. Like, meaning it was really good. And the fact that it had no chemicals was obviously novel. But this company was started by an entrepreneur named Michael Bronner because his son had celiac disease and couldn't eat all the Halloween candy he went and harvested. And, they had means, and they said, we're going to go take on the candy industry and try to create chemical-free candy. Massively huge idea. And their idea was to unjunk candy and ultimately unjunk the world. So I recently came back in touch with a guy named Mark Nardi, who's a genius writer in the Boston ad community. And another person who worked on it. His name was Amelie Loyot, who is a fantastic art director, and a whole ream of other people. But the short of it was that Unreal had a bunch of product that was likely going to expire because it didn't have a multi-year shelf life. Candy without chemicals doesn't last as long.
That's good.
And the second highest candy consumption day of the year in the US is Easter, after Halloween, of course. So to this day, this is one of my favorite things I've ever been a part of, was this ragtag team of people working for me. We're holed up in like a 6x6 cubicle in like a basement. No kidding. Well, actually, it was on the third floor, but it felt like the basement. And the client's like, we don't have enough time. We only have 60 days before Easter. And I said, no way. We're not missing the window.
Wow.
Give us 2 weeks and we're going to come back to you with some ideas, because it was a really big opportunity for us. And lo and behold, this team comes up with this idea that the Easter Bunny has an epiphany and realizes that he's been handing out candy filled with chemicals to all the children around the world for years and years. And he's almost suicidal with despair and misery because he's been basically poisoning kids. And he wants to go out and apologize. And we don't have a lot of money. So this is like Junkyard Dog, Xeroxing tens of thousands of apology letters. I'm sorry, I've been a bad bunny. And we got, because of Michael Bronner, his connections and the connections of the people we were working with, got access to Tom Brady, New England Patriots quarterback, Jack Dorsey, former founder.
Buccaneers quarterback, by the way.
Yeah, now Bucks quarterback. John Legend wrote and sang a song to the Easter Bunny in a New York, bar called the Dead Rabbit, of all things.
Wow.
And basically, the work went viral. It got on ESPN, and it took this tiny no-name brand with very little dollars spent against the idea, and it proved that a genius idea done in a scrappy, highly digital fashion can change the game. Absolutely. And to this day, it's one of my favorite ideas and brands and case studies. USA Today declared it the best holiday advertisement of all time.
That's insane.
And it was just a really special moment. And you mentioned challenges. Oh, dear Lord. I mean, every minute of every day was a challenge, but we literally rolled out the sleeping bags and worked on it for probably 60 days straight, nonstop. Wow. And remember, it's not just during the event. It's like pre, during, and post-Easter all opportunities. So there's a real ecosystem around it. But that was probably one of my favorite,
And, the thing about that, Ted, you say that, and my other thing is that when you have an account like Progressive, who, by the way, they buy and sell all their media in-house at Progressive. So, and their budgets are through the roof. Geico still, I think, outspends them, but they have huge budgets. So, I always say, if you've got budgets that huge, you could put it, someone standing there, I don't know, I'm trying to give a bad example, but, you could put anything on TV and you put that kind of media weight behind it and it's going to stick.
It's going to stick.
The real challenge is when you don't have a big budget. And, when people would come to me now and say, I want Progressive, it's like, do you have Progressive money? Yeah. Because that's what you need to do a Progressive ad. You've got to have those kinds of media budgets. If not, then, like Ted said, you got to get super creative and super scrappy. We at the Grist shoot a lot of our own stuff. And today we were shooting all together. We were shooting our Christmas video. So we had quite a day today. I did take off all the costume, the Christmas sweater and everything.
Me too.
I mean, it's fun. There's either end of the spectrum. They all require the creative process, which we're all in love with. Let's face it. We just love going through the thinking. The idea generation is all of our loves. That's why we got into this business.
Yeah, the art and science of it. The art and science. I'm a student of the game, and I love it. I just want to break down what you both said because it's such a gem. But for the candy bar example, right, for the rabbit, this was a category creator. So that means there was no consumer education on this, right? So the level of creativity that you need in order for it to stick, the storytelling, all the stars have to align. And the way you guys have put that together and to make it stick like that for something that nobody knows about, right? Just off the creativity, I'm going to try it. I'm going to take a bite, and that's still revenue. So for anybody listening, that's the challenge, right? When you have the budget, it's easier to do because you can put the right resource. But when you have your back against the wall, when you're a small business owner and you have $500 and you're like, what do I do, right? That's when, creativity, and you don't need these big budgets. You just need one good moment, and you need to connect with your customer. That's it.
Yeah. Although we'll take the big budgets.
Yeah. I also think you need people who are believers. Yeah. And like we had believers in Unreal. I remember John Burns, who was really in charge of the whole thing for Raptor Consumer Brands, believed in it, gave us the shot. We have clients today. You mentioned B2B technology. I want to give a shout out to this brand called GPS Track It, and their CEO, Ed Montez, just let our chief creative officer, Dan Madsen, completely humanize and disrupt what you would consider a typically very lame B2B technology around, fleet tracking and management and field service technology. But these guys rewrote the book and just came at it in such a human, clever, interesting way that it's opening up the door to a new conversation because people are bored. They don't pay attention when they get hammered all day with the same, generic stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, it's bug spray. So you got to have believers and people willing to take some risks if you're ever going to do something that gets on the map.
That's it. And that applies to sales. It applies to B2B. It applies to everything. I tell it. I was just did a presentation 2 days ago. I had my first client. I was doing a LinkedIn workshop. Nice. And I was showing people how to do. Cool. Thank you. I was showing people how to do outreach, and they were like, "Yeah." So I got a big meeting with this Fortune 500 company. The lady's last name happened to be Thomas. So instead of me just going after the, hey, this is what I do, I just said, "Hey, what's up, cuzzo?" When the bar, it'd be really cool if you are related. If you are, you got to take this meeting. And it was like there. And then we closed things like that is just being creative, being yourself, right? It's all about the relationship. You got to be different. Yeah. If I try to be you, I'm just
let me ask you this, Jared, because I think this is true. I think it takes a long time in business, especially if you're doing new business. Mm-hmm. If you're a hunter, if you're a networker, it takes a long time to realize that your secret weapon is being your most authentic self. Mm. And you almost have to retrain your brain to say, in a professional setting and knowing that you need to sell something, a product, service yourself. Yeah. But the best way to win is by being the best version of yourself. It's almost like mental jujitsu, but when you can be that comfortable as the three of us are on the phone, it's what makes it fun and cool and interesting and makes people connect. It's hard to do.
It's so hard. It took me 10 years. It took me to be in my career when I was like, I tried it every single way. I've tried every single way. I said it the way you guys want to be, the way you did. I listened to your training. And then when I just stopped with the button ups and stuff, and literally I was in a pandemic where I'm tired, man. I'm glad I'm showing up on the computer. I don't care. I'm just going to be comfortable and I'm going to be myself. And then sales went through the roof.
That's great.
Crap. And that's why Charles, shout out to Charles. He's actually one of my people that I talked to early in the personal branding journey. And he's blowing up as well. So it just makes life easier. Be yourself, because then you find your tribe. You find who wants to be with you, and you know what you're going to get out of me.
You also started the meeting and the podcast and everything just by saying thank you to us. And we're like, whoa. Thank you to you. And then we had a thank you battle and a gratitude battle. But that stuff means a lot too, because I think most people don't really mean it or
I mean, it's also, I always find it's great. I always found friendships in business too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Become friends with your clients. And, I guess, when I say that to people, I think some people are like, I'm not going to be friends with my client. But it's like, I've always I genuinely, love my clients. Of course, we've all had difficult clients.
Yeah, there's some jerks in there.
On the whole, if they, if we connect on a human level, and then we're going to get along well, and it's going to be easier to work together. I'm going to be able to sell better work because we're friends, and
Absolutely.
They're going to want to, spend time with me, and therefore we can increase the level of business we're doing together. So I think it is, and that is a genuine thing, that I really do love my clients, and I like hanging out with them, and I enjoy them.
That's it. The problem is, as sellers, we're taught to be transactional.
Yep.
And that's the problem. So when I was always told and taught, it's like I always had if I knew you, if I spoke to you on the phone, if you came into the office or something like that, we hit it off, right? But then how do you scale that? And how do you do those things? And it's just like, you're thinking of the transaction. I see Ted's name in Zoom info. He's a lead. He's a prospect. No, he's a person. He's a dad. He's a brother. He's you know what I mean?
That's the misconception with B2B tech advertising. Everyone goes, oh my God, it's B2B tech. There is no better place to be human, because it's a one-to-one human-to-human sale, no matter how technical. And a lot of marketers come up through an engineering background in B2B tech, and therefore default to feeds and speeds and technical mumbo jumbo, which is great when you're bottom funnel, like trying to get to the technical stuff. But at the hook, at the top level, you got to hook people with something human and emotional. Otherwise, they're just going to blow right by it.
That's it. That's what you connect to. And that's the problem with, so like, I even gave an idea. I was talking to an agency the other day, right? They were like, yeah, what can we do to enhance our brand as an agency? I said, you know what? One of the biggest or most watched shows on Netflix is The Office. Yeah. You have an office, you have a camera, you have ring lights. So imagine if you just put up a camera, just have it going. The laughs, the jokes you guys have in the office, the little, high five, all those things. It means something. You coming up with the Christmas party ideas. Who's going to do this? Who's going to get what? You ran into traffic, but you got a meeting at 12. And now you know me and you relate to it. And now I want to do business with Ted. I want to do business with Mary, Jared. I want to go get a beer with these guys and this, and that it means something. So guys, think creative when you're going into this recession, because if you don't, it's going to be really difficult. Would you want a conversation like how we are now, or do you want to have to sell for 6 months and get the runaround?
Yeah, and don't forget that there is no mercy in life.
No.
You always have to hustle. I read this. I read probably way too much then. It's a good thing. Always read. But I read this proverb at one time. It's about the empty fireplace. How everyone sits and looks at the empty fireplace and wishes they were warm. They don't realize they have to go out in the woods, chop down the tree, split the wood, haul it back to the house, light it, stay warm for a few hours, and then go back and do it the next day for the rest of your life. So then they call it work for a reason. Like, you should choose, if you can, if you're lucky enough, like we all are, to actually like, if not love, what you do. But it's not easy, and you have to show up every day. For your family, for your kids, for your loved ones, for yourself, whatever. Do not, and there'll be plenty of down days, but just realize there is no stopping. You have to keep going all the time. Give yourself a break. Don't burn out. But that's the game. You have to enjoy what you do and realize it never ends.
The game doesn't end. And I love that. I would love to ask you guys. I know we're past the 40-minute mark. We're having fun and time's going. But so what are some things that get you guys excited right now for the Grist, and what are some of the plans? We'd love to, definitely gonna keep an out for you guys. But what are some things that get you excited?
Right now, Ted and I have a flight in the morning out to LA at Dawn's Crack tomorrow.
Safe travel.
We don't do a lot of traveling, but we happen to have the agency has a shoot to do out there, so we'll stop by the shoot and do that. But we're also meeting with our investment banking partner and meeting with other people out in LA just to, continue to work over the weekend. Actually, we're meeting with a bunch of people, and I spent the last 10 years out in LA, so I'm going to get the chance to visit some of my friends too.
A little fun in the sun. Nothing wrong with that, and handling biz, right?
Yeah, but I know that's not. That's literally what we're up to.
I'll pile on with my fadeaway. Oh, sorry, Mary. Go ahead.
No. I was saying I'll let Ted answer.
I was just gonna say my fadeaway is I'm totally fired up about 2023. So part of us meeting with our partner Eric Coonrod at Integral Capital Partners, the investment bank, is planning what we're doing as a partnership in 2023. And Mary and I are also planning just 2023 goals around branding for buyout, around the next book, branding for IPO, and a whole bunch of other projects that we think are a new way to create value and not your typical kind of, I always say this, marketing and branding has always existed to sell more product, service, or technology to a customer. That's what we've always been in business to do. Branding for buyout, that's still true, but there's a new target audience, which is the buyer, which is a whole different game. So we're really focused on two sides, doing great marketing, increasing value, creating value for clients with established brands that have no desire to sell, and brands that are either approaching a sale or a couple of years out from an IPO. Those are what we're aiming at. That's what we're hunting, and having a blast doing it. We absolutely, and getting to work with Mary and Art.
Hey, we started there, and I was going to say that we're very lucky. I think we know that we get to work together. I'm looking out here at the office. I'm sitting in Ted's office, but it's a glass front. And, all the people who work here, they're just we have a blast. They're great people. And we have fun together, and everybody, is out arm in arm wanting to accomplish the same thing. And Ted is a spark plug. I mean, he is, he's probably exhausted right now, but
I'm actually sitting on a beanbag in my son's room because I got kicked out of the rest of the house. So just for the record, you do what you got to do.
Anyway, Ted is he's an energy guy. So if ever I'm feeling like, God, I don't know if I can do it again today, Ted, I just call Ted. Ted's like, let's go.
Do it. What are we doing? I could tell, and I'm the same way, and I love it. And I could just tell, I hate the word because it's a buzzword, but synergy. You could just tell that you guys genuinely enjoy being around each other. I could feel it on the conversation. Damn, it has me saying, let me get an office space. I'm ready to come over there, guys. But I just want to say to both of you,
you're welcome anytime.
Please do.
And same. I told Ted offline, please, if you're in New York, I offer this to everybody. If you're in New York, let me know. Lunch on me. I would love to hang out with you guys and just pick your brains because I really enjoyed this conversation. And I'm certainly rooting for you both. I'm going to buy the book as well. I need your autograph, Ted. So I would love that.
Delivered to you in New York.
Please. And for everybody listening, all the comments, Jay, Charles, the Facebook, YouTube team, thank you guys. We love you. We've got another episode in 2 weeks. It's actually the last of the season with Paxton Baker, who's the chairman of the Washington Nationals. So it's going to be a really cool story of how did you ascend to that and being ownership? What are those challenges like? So it's going to be a really, really cool story. And I'm just so excited for the journey. And I'm glad to call you guys friends now. So I appreciate you both.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank you very much, Jared.
Love it. So definitely talk to you guys soon. And thank you guys for another great episode of More Than a Title. We will see you guys next week. And I'm your host, Jared Thomas. See you guys soon. What you know about me?